Hello, welcome everyone. I had to be drug kicking and screaming in here today, so that's the level of enthusiasm I'm bringing to this live stream. So you're just all gonna have to accept that. I hope everybody is doing delightfully. I have been spending the entire day not doing any of the things I probably should be doing with my day. Like finishing a trashy novel, reading an extremely long novel length fan fiction. So yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. Is this a different aesthetic altogether? This is like my brand color. I guess like I kind of have toned it down from this color, like blue to a darker teal, but it's true. I am usually more like fluffy. The real like I have zero fucks to give. I really shouldn't curse within like 5 minutes of the live stream starting because then YouTube is gonna find it and never push it out. But I have like zero fucks to give today, so and I need a haircut desperately. But I got the vaccine on Monday, and I'm going 3 weeks after the vaccine. I got the Johnson and Johnson, so I'm waiting 3 weeks. You can kind of do two, but like peak efficacy for the vaccine is at 6 weeks. So I just kind of decided to like I'm doing 3 weeks. Anyway, I'm in desperate need of a haircut. I have not gotten a professional haircut in like 17 months or something. And this is what we're dealing with today. So I guess it's not pastel, but I would say that less of my wardrobe is pastel than you think. I will say I put this on to make myself slightly more like I had a plan and an aesthetic, especially because I did not put my contacts in today, which tells you something about how I most definitely did not go running today. And I put my glasses on. I was like, oh, this matches my glasses, so I'll just wear this. Anyway, now you know where we're at. This is where we're at. I have a non-alcoholic cocktail that normally I would have more of it, but I drank already quite a lot of it in the 10 minutes before the show. The cat is taking a bath over there in the box. I openly solicited patrons to ask them what questions they had, and I put no. Normally when I ask for questions, I ask for it on a specific topic, like credit or something. I had no plans this week. Don't really care. So we're just gonna answer some random questions people had about finances, economy, donuts. There were a few where people asked questions that should and maybe will be a live stream entirely by themselves. So I feel like we'll all kind of get there eventually. I might like briefly touch on them and then kind of move over that. This is an extremely random live stream. Here's the donut. Here, let me distract you all with donuts. Okay, so today's donut is a pineapple coconut fritter. I mean, look at this. It's really quite the fritter. So it smells extremely coconutty. It's like aggressively coconutty. Believe it or not, I had a donut last night from them. They do buy one, get one free the last half hour they're open. Quite often they sell out, so like they don't have any. I was just craving a treat on a Friday night, and I decided to go get myself a donut on a non-live stream day, and I ended up getting one of the chocolate ones that had a chocolate. I actually didn't realize it at the time, but it had chocolate on as the actual like base of the donut, and it was incredible, and I'm 100% gonna have it on the live stream. The chocolate wasn't very strong, and it didn't have chocolate frosting. It was coconut bacon, so like coconut shavings that they put like liquid smoke on and stuff, so they have like a really smoky taste. And then it was like tahini topping over a chocolate, just regular cake, not like a fluffy donut. Anyway, it was great. I thought it was surprisingly exceptional. Oh, right, latitude. I forgot that you're allergic to coconuts. Well, you can, I guess, from afar, participate in this. Rather than logging off, you just get like the advantage of doing this. Oh, I didn't even think about the fact that it is a perna colada donut. You are correct. It is a perna colada donut. It is true they are not sprinkles. This is 100% not a pastel. I don't know why people think it's a pastel. Maybe it's not coming across on camera, but this is like an extremely bold non-pastel color. If it was pastel, it would. Well, I was gonna define it as it would be it would be a lighter pastel blue if it was pastel. I'm doing great today. Hope you all are having a wonderful week. This is what you tuned in for. I will say I did like almost no promotion of this because this is what's happening. I said I do these every week. I do these every week. The same time, we're here. I don't know. One of these questions I get to talk about the federal funds rate, and I really feel like maybe I should get started on these questions so that I'm not just randomly talking about coconuts. The glasses are closer to pastel, but more like neon. See, I think that's the lights. They're really not neon, close to neon in any way, but it's, I think, the lights that make them look that way. These are also supposed to be anti-reflective coating glasses, and they really don't seem to be if I tilt in the wrong way. Y'all, I need a haircut so bad. My hair has not been this long. I cut 2 inches off like 2 months ago myself, just cut 2 inches off the bottom. And it's still the longest it's been in, I think, since I was 13 years old, maybe, and I cut my hair. So I'm melting down. I cannot handle having this much hair. I have such thick hair, which I realize is whining on the yacht, but I have incredibly thick hair, and it means that having hair even just this long, it takes 8 to 10 hours to dry if I shower, which means that if I shower and I wash my hair, which means I end up only washing my hair twice a week at best, because I cannot stand to have wet hair all freaking day or all night. It's just very frustrating. Can Erin build a haircut robot? Simone Yates has a video on her channel where she built a haircut robot, and it looks terrifying. And no. Also, I'm now at the point, I actually scheduled my haircut appointment with someone new. Unfortunately, the person that cuts my hair has left the business. I used to get friends to cut my hair all the time, and then I don't know, age 26 or 27, I finally started going to someone who is a professional, and I spent years being I should have just shelled out the money to get my hair professionally cut. And so now I'm at the point, because I've made the appointment, I'm I could just try, if I just wanted to do a hack job, I could, but I'd rather leave the maximum amount of hair for the person to work with. Which is why I'm not trimming my bangs or anything. I feel just leave them all of the options so that they can do great things for me. It's been interesting. I've learned more about how to do my hair in the past year than I have in the previous 20 plus. However, I am over it now. I am not cut out for long hair. It's not even the femness of it. It's the I'm not going anywhere or doing anything, and it's still too high maintenance for me. Can you imagine when I start going to the office again and seeing humans outside of my house? Realistically, I only need to look presentable on camera like twice a week for my 30-minute stand-up meeting on Monday mornings, and then this. And other than that, I don't care what I look like. So I gotta cut the hair. Anyway, I'm sorry. I told you that this was gonna be a just absolute random shit show of stuff today. Here, let me answer some questions. So I asked the Personal Finance Society, which is Patreons, for some random questions on both the forums and on Patreon, and I got some interesting random questions. One of them was from Christy, who said, "This might be old news to everyone else. I haven't been paying attention, but I have a CD that's maturing, and when I want to look at the interest rates for renewal, this is what I saw. Attached from USAA. Am I reading this wrong, or does this say that I'm just well off putting my money under my mattress? My previous rate APY was just under 2%, which wasn't exactly exciting, but like, what the heck?" So let me explain a couple mechanics here in case someone doesn't know. First of all, I don't even have to look at that chart to know what you're saying, which is, yes, it is practically 0% right now that you are going to get on a CD. Yes, pretty much everybody else already knew about it. But that being said, like, if you're not in the market, right, you might not have known that. And if you've been waiting for a CD to mature. So if you don't know, a CD is a certificate of deposit, and it is an account that gives you a slightly higher interest rate because it is locked. So you'll have a term on your CD, and usually the more money that you put in and the longer you lock it up for, the higher the interest rate that you would get. And the attached chart I'm going to put up here, because the attached chart has like how long the rates are for various CDs. And I mean, look at some of these rates. It's like up to $100,000. If you put it in there for 6 months, you might make 0.05% on your CD. And this is, in fact, what is happening right now. So Christy had a CD like come to maturation. And what a lot of people do is what's called CD ladders, where they'll essentially have like a series of CDs that mature at different dates, and they keep kind of rolling the money into different CDs so that they're never locking up like all of their emergency funds or kind of their medium-term cash savings all like completely up for 2 years, because there are like pretty heavy penalties if you take money out of a CD early. The answer is yes. Remember how I keep saying that we have worries about inflation because the interest rate is so low, and you know how the housing market is bananas right now, and it is bananas because partially the interest rates are so low. That is why you're seeing people get like 2.5 to 3% interest rate on mortgages. That is because the federal funds rate, which is the target interest rate that the Federal Reserve sets for banks to lend to each other right now, is effectively 0%. And that is, so the Federal Reserve essentially requires that all FDIC insured banks have their own account at the Federal Reserve that they have to keep their reserve requirements in. And so if you are a bank, you have to keep a certain percentage of the total amount of depositors' money in this Federal Reserve account, and it has to be closed out every night. And so there is an overnight lending rate, and that lending rate is the money that if you as a bank have excess funds over the reserve requirement, you will lend it to other banks that might be a little short. And the overnight lending rate, which I like to imagine as the overnight window that is like a little like drive-through window, but that's not actually what it looks like. It's just what it looks like in my economics education mind. Anyway, that rate right now is effectively 0%. And that is because that is a stimulus to the country. This is what the Fed is in control of, is the federal funds rate. And a lot of the concerns right now around hyperinflation are because interest rates are so low. And we aren't going to get hyperinflation. I've done like 12 live streams explaining how we are not currently at risk for hyperinflation for the US dollar in any way, shape, or form. And it doesn't even look like necessarily we're going to have regular inflation. The federal funds rate, if you were alive and an adult in the early 1980s, you may remember when interest rates were as high as 20% on a mortgage. You might have gotten a 14 or a 20% interest rate on a mortgage. And that is because there was high inflation in the early 1980s. And so the federal funds rate was up to 20% in the early 1980s in an attempt to get inflation down. Because when it costs a lot to borrow money, then you lend out, like banks lend out less money, and it means that less money is circulating, which means that you get less inflation. Does that make some sense? And if you want to stimulate the economy and have people spend money, then you lower the interest rate, because when money is moving freely around and you have a lot of activity in the economy, then that helps stimulate the economy. That is part of what a stimulus is about. Ally is not at 0.5%. I think Ally is down to 0.02%. They just keep dropping it. It keeps dropping. I think it went down maybe 0.2 at Ally. So if you are, this is one of the things that I've been struggling with. Here's where I admit my like own personal dirty shame. I have like $25,000 in my checking account right now, which as someone who like advocates for personal finance is like absolutely ridiculous. To be fair, I have an interest-bearing checking account. To also be fair, every time I consider moving it to my high yield savings account that has like my emergency fund in it, I'm like, what? It's getting about the same interest rate as my checking account. So there's not like a ton of utility to doing it. I really should at least move it out of there just so that like if anybody got a hold of my debit card number, it would not be, accessible. That amount of money wouldn't be accessible right now. Probably shouldn't have admitted that on the internet. But one of the things for me is that, like, even if I was going to go drop like 25K or something in a account, I want to keep it as cash available. I don't want to invest that particular money into the stock market. It's my like emergency fund and my like, 1 year's worth of living expenses plus, so, for some context, like my annual living expenses hover somewhere around $16,000 to $18,000. So it's like more than a year's worth of living expenses in my checking account right now, which is like shameful. I'm sorry. But and that's not my emergency fund in my checking account. Like I have a separate savings account that's my emergency fund. And at this point, it makes more sense to be chasing like sign-up bonuses for checking and savings accounts, because you can get like $200 to $500 of new bank account sign-up bonuses if you have like, for a lot of the like larger banks, they're running promos right now where it's like, if you have $15,000 and you put it in a checking account and that balance remains for 90 days, you get like $500 sign-up bonus, and that ends up being worth more than the APY on a high-yield savings account right now. So, yeah, that's actually one of the big reasons, like, we were talking about in that whole, like, why day trading has seen such a rise in the past year, why people, like ordinary people, are interested in things like GameStop. One of the reasons why, and then why the stock market and real estate has been doing so well despite the economic hardships that we see in everyday life. And it's because people that have access to capital, be it $25,000 in their checking account or multi-millions of dollars, they are seeking out ways to make money that is not just, things like certificates of deposits or buy and hold kind of schemes right now. They are trying to find money in other kinds of asset, which is why we are not seeing inflation right now in cash, but we are seeing probably some asset inflation right now because there's a lot of money rushing into real estate. There's a lot of money rushing into the stock market right now because people are seeking a way to have their money make more money, and just sitting on it will not do it alone. My Capital One 360 account is giving 0.3%. I mean, looking great, sounding great. Emily says that's what their site says. That's really interesting. I will say that everybody I know with the Ally like keeps getting emails. So my high yield savings account is through Credit Karma, and when I got it, it was like at 1.5, which was like things were already on the way down when I got this one. But I get a new email from them every month saying how much they've dropped the rate. So, Latitude. $1,500. I was actually saying $15,000 to put into a bank account, not $1,500. But yeah, if you want to look up bank account bonuses, a really great website to start is Doctor of Credit. It can be a little bit of a confusing hobby at first, but it's actually one of the things that I recommend to, if you have a little bit of cash available and you're a college student, I actually think bank account bonuses can be like a decent hustle because it's, you don't have to spend money usually in the same way that you need to spend money for like credit card hacking and stuff like that. It is important to note that you will have to pay taxes on those bonuses. So if you get $500 to $1,000 a year in sign-up bonuses, you will get 1099 INTs, and you will have to pay taxes on that. But if you have a low tax rate, it shouldn't matter too much. Denise says, my checking account has $441 due to a whoopsie adding a zero onto a payment, so interest is adding fast. Whew, whew. That's scary. Oro says, solidarity. I'm currently using my emergency fund, and it's nice to have access be simple. Yeah, I mean, that's the, like, thing is that, like, I have this, part of this is, you know, like I say, so much of this money stuff is, like, psychological. For me, I've always needed to have more money in my checking account than probably is, like, safely rational. And that's, like, a security thing, but the current situation I'm in is a little out of control. The other problem, too, is that my only investment account right now is my work 401k, and I get paid once a month through my work 401k, my only tax-advantaged investment account. And so it used to be that, like, I could just send extra money over to my IRA, and it's like early enough in the year I wouldn't have maxed it out probably right now. However, I'm not going to qualify for an IRA this year, so I need to like call and open a solo 401k. Now we're just hearing about Lily's procrastination. So Latitude, yeah, $15,000 for a lot of the higher sign-up bonuses. That being said, there are some checking account bonuses that you can sign up for, especially if you are currently a college student. That is around they'll be between like $50 to $100 or something like that. But a lot of the higher ones are high. Latitude says, do you know how many Pushins that would buy? Here's the thing. How many Pushins would the $500 bonus buy? That's the thing. If you can sit on that and keep that minimum like account amount for, 90 days or something like that, you can use that money to buy Pushins at the end. That is the allure of having your money make money, is that you then can spend some of that money. But if you just spend that money on Pushins and it doesn't earn any money whatsoever, then it's gone. And the Pushins don't make more Pushins, unfortunately. Siren Eye says, the low yield in my savings account is the reason I've begun experimenting with high yield stable coins and crypto. See, I mean, that's like 100%. That's one of the reasons that crypto has gone so high. I would argue that stable coins in crypto is a bit of a misnomer, but whatever is exciting for you. Siren says, not all of my emergency fund or anything, just about 1% of my cash. I mean, that seems like fairly reasonable. I've always been a big proponent of like, if you want to play with crypto or if you want to play with day trading, like taxable investments, like do it. Like it can be fun and interesting. It can be profitable. Just don't put it all in. So it's a hobby. It might be a hobby that sometimes costs you money. Might be a hobby that makes you some money sometimes, right? Latitude says, I think plushies automatically go to 30% of what they're originally worth after you buy them, unless they're Beanie Babies. Unless they came from your grandma and smell like home. Oh, car plushies. Especially if you live in a hot state. Siren Eye says, I just bought a house this week with the rest of the cash I was sitting on. Congrats! You bought a house this week. Well, that is another place to put some investments right now where you can hope that it will appreciate. Is it a house to live in or is it an investment house? Because, you know, houses to live in are often not actually investments in the end. But it is another place to stack some cash. And like I said, interest rates are super low right now. So, any other questions? No? I just dove into describing federal funds rate because I was so excited about it. Okay, this is an easy question to answer. I can't join live on Saturday, but I've been wondering, where are your donuts from? Always the same place or different shops? Vast majority of my donuts come from one place in Portland called Dough Donuts, which is a vegan donut shop. However, I've done like 2 or 3 live streams where I've gotten vegan donuts from other donut places in Portland. So this is because I am allowed to be quite lazy because the donut shop is in my neighborhood. So, which is like, I think my neighborhood is very easy to figure out on the internet, so I'm not giving too much away there. Siren Eye says, is a house to live in. Siren Eye says, I love dropping it on your live streams. Always great economy knowledge dropping on your viewers. Well, thanks. I mean, we just switched to donuts, so I appreciate that you've joined into this live stream, which is literally titled, I walked into this room and I don't remember why. So I set expectations so low for this live stream. So Latitude says, welcome to my investment house where I put all my investments. Did you buy the investment house, Latitude, on pushinshop.com? Because I'm pretty sure that's where your investment house is going to be from and that is what it's going to be filled with. Lucy had a question that honestly I think deserves an entire live stream. I have not done a PPP live stream in quite a while, and I think it would be worth doing one specifically just for self-employed people. I may even have someone I can invite on who's done quite a few of these. Having just belatedly applied for a PPP loan as a self-employed person, I'd love to hear about that. How does forgiveness work? What can't you do with the money? I've read other FAQs and resources, but would welcome your patented OMD level clarity and sass. So the first thing to know, which if you've already applied, you probably already know how much you're able to get, but there are limits on how much of your own salary you can pay back. And for the first round of PPP, they were kind of letting you like set it based on owner compensation. But if you are a sole proprietor and file a Schedule C, then it is going to come off line 7 of your Schedule C. And if you run multiple businesses, the maximum amount that you can get forgiven is equal to $20,000-ish across all of your Schedule Cs. So it's about you as a person. There is a maximum that you can do, even if you got the PPP for like multiple different LLCs. So there's limits on owner compensation. It ends up being like the way that you find it is you look at line 7 of your Schedule C. You then take the annual income there, you divide it by 12, and then you multiply that amount by 2.5 because it is equal to 2.5 months of payroll. And you can use either your 2019 or your 2020 Schedule C. You can't go any earlier than that. So if you had higher income in 2019, you're probably going to want to use that as your proof. If you had higher income in 2020 and you got PPP anyway in 2021, then you may want to file and use your Schedule C. That is the main amount of proof that you're going to need in order to get the forgiveness. There's a very easy form, like it's easy on the end, just like a 1040 easy is. The easy form for forgiveness for sole proprietors is like a lot less complicated, because if you are a self-employed person and you do not have a payroll of other people, it's like a super easy form to do. You can use it towards utilities. You can use it towards certain kinds of operating expenses like internet. I know Lucy at least used to rent a studio. So studio rent can be used, home utilities. You cannot use it for inventory expenses, and you cannot use it on, what's the words I'm looking for? Debt. So you can't use it on debt. And there were a lot of people in the first round who got it, who were planning on using it as sort of like a low interest loan, and they weren't planning on going for the 100% forgiveness. However, with this latest round, and if you're self-employed, you really should not use it on things that are not on the forgiveness list, because you're going to be subjected to extra scrutiny, and you might be likely to not even get the forgiven parts forgiven. So generally, I would recommend sticking to the list. It's actually like a pretty decently broad list. And if you've already applied, they're going to have sort of the calculations for how much you can get out of it. There's also a max. Your annual salary is capped at $100,000 or something like that. So you won't be able to get forgiveness above the 2.5 monthly payroll rate for that. You can do bonuses. So if you have employees, you can do bonuses. And you can also do, the one exception to not paying back debt is if you got an EIDL loan last year. If you were one of the few rare people that got the EIDL loan, you can pay back the EIDL loan with your PPP loan and then get it forgiven. Is a mini donut maker a good investment? I mean, it sounds like an excellent lifestyle choice, but not a good investment necessarily, unless you're spending like so much money on donuts. Then yes. I'm eating the donuts. Okay, this one. So I will do a more thorough live stream on PPP for self-employed people. I love that this actually just gave me a bunch of ideas about live streams to do. So I got this question, which I was just like, oh, I cannot answer this during a live stream unless the entire live stream is this. Can you talk about Enron? Enron happened when I was little, and I've never been very clear exactly about what happened there. It's so complicated. It is extremely hard to be able to describe all the things going on with Enron. Like, there were like accounting things going on. There was the way they were doing their books, essentially. There was some tax credit stuff going on. Then there was the fact that all these employees were like heavily invested entirely in Enron stock. I would love to do a live stream about Enron, but it is like way outside of the scope of what I can quickly explain. So now when I point, I'll be pointing at the text. But interesting topic. But yeah, actually, it's like very long. There's a great episode of You're Wrong About that covers Enron. Oh, interesting. That sounds great if you're a podcast person. I also really recommend there is a documentary on Enron. It's like 2.5 hours long, which tells you why I cannot answer this in a casual live stream. But it's called Enron, the Smartest Guys in the Room, I think, or maybe the smartest people in the room. Can't remember if it was gender neutral or not. But look, it's actually incredible if you like, it's essentially like, if you like business true crime, which as far as a genre that appeals to Lily, business true crime is one of them. What other questions do we have? Oh, Esme asked this. as someone who doesn't follow the news too closely for mental health reasons, what do you think of the Biden administration so far? Quite honestly, I was noting this the other day. I've had so little energy to be outraged by anything the administration is doing. They like the migrant crisis at the border is like the primary thing going on right now that they are getting a lot of international criticism for, and domestic criticism as well, because the migrant crisis at the border has gotten a lot worse. And pretty much everything that liberals were mad at Trump for doing is now happening at a much higher scale right now under the Biden administration. And they're like, keeping kids in cages once again. So it's not looking great right now. Looks like it can be solved. The other thing going on is like they're right now on internationally, there's sort of like a question about whether or not we can let the United States, like in the international community, can let the United States back into the Paris Climate Accord because Trump left. And there, Biden had stated that he wanted to be back in it. Anyway, I will have more opinions on the Biden administration when Infrastructure Week comes up. But I will say that, vaccines are getting out at the rate that Biden promised. And there is really there's three crises going on simultaneously right now. There's the health crisis of COVID. There's the economic crisis brought on by the COVID session. And there is a racial justice and equity crisis going on as well. And I think the Biden administration is very aware of that as their priorities, and doing okay on some and not doing great on others. It's just like very normal for how abnormal everything else is. What other questions do we have? Yay, more boat questions. What's the Suez Canal update now that it's been free and clear for a few days? Global shipping untangled itself? No. Maybe I didn't get too deeply into this in the Suez Canal situation, but I don't think people understand the level at which when people are upset about package delays and production delays and everything, the global supply chain has been screwed since last January, pretty much. And I know for a lot of people outside of China, the kind of perception was that the pandemic really took off in March, but you have to understand how much of global trade, and in particular trade of goods, originates in China. And China started shutting down factories and had them shut down from early January, late December onwards. And the global shipping trade has been a mess. So there's so many factors that are going into it. One, there is a lot more freight that has been moved by sea, simply because the freight rates have skyrocketed because air freight has gotten so expensive because so few commercial flights are running. You may not realize this, but when you're on a commercial flight, a large part of underneath the plane is not actually the luggage for people that have paid for it. It is in fact freight that is paid for by FedEx, UPS. Those companies are paying on commercial carriers in order to be able to do air freight. Because commercial planes had dropped off so much, one of the problems that you were running into was additionally the fact that their freight prices had dropped so much. Then, on top of that, both in air and shipping, actual shipping, I guess it's all shipping, but freight freight across the board was running into border issues. Do you remember how all the borders were getting shut down? There were people who had crews that were stuck on boats because they could not get into... Remember how we were like hearing about all the cruise ships where people were stuck and couldn't get into ports? That was cruise ships. What was happening with merchant marines was that they were just being stuck at ports. Some of them, or they would be asked to go back out again because they would not be allowed into the country. They'd be allowed to unload goods, but then they couldn't get out of the country. And we also have this problem that's been going on all year because of the asymmetric recovery between where production is happening, which is China mostly. China recovered like a lot earlier. Factories reopened a lot earlier than the rest of the world was opening. So we had manufacturing shut down except in one region of the world. But we had all these boats that were stuck in other places. And we essentially do not have enough containers to go around for all the container ships. So they are like, there's backlogs at every port in the world right now as far as dealing with being able to unload container ships. And this is also because one of the things I talked about in the Suez Canal is that for years, container ships have been getting bigger and bigger, stacked with more and more containers. We actually have like several container ships right now that are just relocating containers because the container shortage is so bad. The containers are not in the places where they're needed. So China was like up and producing goods, but there were no empty containers in China. So you've got that going on. What other things are we dealing with? I mean, like I cannot even list all the problems going on with the global supply chain. Freight rates have been through the roof. If you talk to like any businesses that are, large manufacturer businesses, any of them, they will say their number one problem right now is supply chain, global supply chain. So it's like, it is absolute meltdown ridiculousness right now. Oh, good. We have a Bodhi person here. The great container shortage. They're being guarded like someone's newborn child. I mean, it's like ridiculous right now. And then so then one of the other problems that are happening is that ports are having to adapt the way they work for social distancing. And they have less crew at ports right now. So obviously it is a job that cannot be done remotely. And so they were dealing with like having people work in pods, so that if like one team got sick, then it wasn't necessarily spreading to every team by having people move around shifts. You have crews that have been like continuously at sea almost an entire year now because they've been getting begged to like go out again and again. Absolute chaos, not to mention that if you do end up with a COVID outbreak on a ship, that's where the word quarantine came from. And that ends up being an even bigger problem. So it's a mess everywhere. The one container ship getting stuck was amazing in how much it could screw everything up, but everything was already screwed up before then. And so no, global shipping is not untangled. SK says, semiconductor supply is a total mess too. Already was bad. Then Texas weather trouble, a drought in Taiwan, further killing capacity. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like extremely severe weather events I know that it's so hard for that to be the top story, but there's been extremely severe weather events all over the world. And it's like been escalating at a very high rate because climate change. And because of that, we've actually dealt with like shipping delays that would have been a really big shipping delay in like a normal season have now like escalated quite a lot. So the Ursula says the bike supply chain chaos is a doozy. Yeah, so that's like the other problem is that like we have different demand than we expected. So when you're doing forecasting in manufacturing and production, we talked a little bit about like just in time production with the Suez Canal episode, but like one of the other problems was that the anticipation of demand and production, even once factories were back up in China, did what was predicted and ordered and everything was not meeting the needs of the world that was now stuck at home, which is how we saw shortages of things like weights. Part of that was also because it's very expensive to ship weights. Weights. We saw shortages of, certain key things like toilet paper, whatever, stuff that requires large volumes to move around the world. But we also saw these things like exercise bikes, things that were being like factories that were being repurposed for corona purposes, switching to making N95 masks or parts for respirators, ventilators, all of those sort of things. So everything's wrong with the global supply chain. There is going to be a massive reckoning that happens with the global supply chain in the next couple years, thanks to 2020 and 2021. And it's going to be interesting to look at and to cover. Should I eat this donut now? I'm so excited to talk about supply chains and Fed fund rates. But let's eat this donut. I know you all are going to say yes, so. So this is coconut and pineapple shavings, and it's a fritter. So I guess the pineapple must be inside if it's a fritter, because that means it has fruit inside of it. Oh yeah, you can kind of see, as a lot of stuff just fell off the bottom. You can kind of see that there's like chunks in its side. Denise said, nope, don't eat it, just to be contrary. Part of the chip issue is, funnily enough, correction in the other direction. Car makers saw COVID, canceled their orders, and then it turned out people buy cars, so they're spinning. And now paying lots of money to get production spots, which are missed elsewhere. Very fascinating. I just cannot handle how much stuff there is going on. This is a very messy donut. At least it's not covered in powder. I haven't had a single pineapple piece. I guess this is just toasted coconut. Abel Jack says, don't care about donut. The government is very quietly starting studies on moving away from just-in-time systems. Oh my God, all I want to do is talk about production. Emily says, I just cannot handle how much stuff is going on is a real 2021 mood. So the short answer to your question, Oro / Be Queer Make Stuff, is no, global shipping is not fixed, even though boat unstuck. But see, this is what was so beautiful about the boat being stuck in the Suez Canal. What was beautiful about Ever Given was that we all understood and agreed what was wrong with the global supply chain for at least 5 days. We were all like, boat stuck, get unstuck. We understood it inherently, like a 4-year-old could understand what was going on. And now we're back to the previously more complicated problems that are harder to solve. SK said, donuts are a great just-in-time example, though. Correct. Actually, you are discouraged. They don't sell day-old donuts at this place because they don't want you to eat them, the next day because they think they're better, fresher. That's also why they don't ship them. Interestingly enough, relatedly enough. Thank you for bringing it back around to donuts. Or you can ask what you want. I'm going to answer what I want. Um, it is still backed up. It's probably going to take another couple weeks to get all of the boats through. It's like there's like a max throughput that you can put through that canal, and that max throughput is not 300 boats in a week. Actually, I think they said maybe like 10 days I heard earlier this week, so. But it's going to be a right mesh for quite a while. Because the other problem too is like, in addition to the max throughput that they have, all those boats that are stuck are like, every boat that we need to get through is like another boat slot that has to be moved. This is way less pineapple than I thought it was going to be. It's so coconutty. I just thought the pineapple flavor would be stronger. I guess I kind of was thinking more like dried pineapple, but it's like fresh-ish pineapple, and so it doesn't, and it's fried in dough, and so it just doesn't have the same like sharpness that I expected. It's good. It's not amazing. Kitten's very tired. I think I have to lick my fingers because I forgot a napkin. I keep wanting to reach out. I think I have a napkin, but it's my glasses cleaning cloth, and I feel like I should probably not use that as a napkin. From the description, I thought pineapple slice in the middle or something. There's like chunks, but yeah, it's just not that pineapple-y, I feel like. Can you smell the pineapple on it? It's like, it's very coconutty. I think part of the problem too is like coconut is so aggressively forward.
It smells like coconut sugar.
Yeah, it smells like coconut sugar. I mean, it smells great, but it's just not very pineapple-y. Are there any other questions? Have I run out of stuff to talk about? Oh, Oro had another question, which was, what about boycotts and their economic validity? Does the whole boycott Coca-Cola thing Trump is trying to do have any teeth? Boycotts can be extremely effective, but they are not effective in the way that people think they are. So I think a lot of times people think like, oh, I'm withholding my money from, you know, well, for example, the whole city of Cincinnati got boycotted when I was a kid, and it had a huge economic impact on the city. After the 2001 riots, there was a boycott against Cincinnati by like major boycott. But like, you know, when people think like, oh, I'm boycotting Walmart, because, you know, I don't agree with their labor practices or something like that, or I'm not going to have Coca-Cola anymore because of the, you know, they have political stances I don't agree on. A PR hit to a consumer brand is really significant, and that's what boycotts do. Consumers actually don't change their behavior usually enough from a boycott for it to have an economic impact, but PR is extremely important to publicly traded corporations. So if there is a perception that is hurt by the PR crisis of an economic boycott, so, you know, you, like, Coca-Cola is getting a bunch of negative press in the South among, you know, conservative communities because of the way that they spoke out in Georgia or something, then that PR hit can be reflected in what investors think and then their stock price drops. And if their stock price drops, that influences cash on hand, like investor confidence, all sorts of things. The rates they might pay in order for them to get corporate loans, things like that. But the economic impact of actual consumer change, especially when it comes to a brand like Coca-Cola or Walmart or something like that has extremely high stickiness, as far as like most people are not going to switch from Coke to Pepsi. They might say that they're going to, but in reality, consumers tend to be fairly fixed in a lot of their consumer preferences, especially around things like food, grocery stores, stuff like that. So usually boycotts hurt more from a PR perspective. And that's why it's really important that if you are like doing some sort of boycott, it's actually more of a PR move, right? Where you've got to get a lot of press coverage. You've got to get a lot of negative press about the company. There needs to be a lot of coverage of the fact that consumers are willing to boycott. And so, yeah. So the stock market thinks boycotts work better than they do. Well, I think the stock market is aware. The stock market is full of, as Keynes would say, animal spirits. And animal spirits are the fact that consumers and stocks, the markets move by like our feelings. Believe it or not, the markets are like more volatile than consumer preferences. You are less likely to adapt the way that you spend your money than the stock market is likely to respond to how it thinks you might change the way you spend money. Because a stock is just a collection of feelings, right? Like a stock price is a collection of feelings. It is a collection of whether or not people think a price is going to go up or go down. So, that's it, right? So obviously PR hits matter the most. And yes, publicly traded corporations care more about their share price than they care about really individual unit sale in a lot of ways. This is one of those things that this is like why small business cares a lot about volume of sales. It cares a lot about unit price. Small business cares a lot more about things like payroll cost and stuff like that. Large publicly traded corporations, one of the reasons why debt is like leveraged in such a way in large multinational corporations is that the way that they spend their money has a lot of influence on their like share price, and that actually has more to do with the valuation of company than just unit demand, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Once again, we're in a knowledge economy anyway in the US. So, I mean, Coca-Cola is particularly interesting, but sometimes if boycotts get enough success, you can actually hit them on unit demand. So like, sometimes you see like large retailers, like a large retailer is like, oh, we're no longer going to carry this brand or something like that. When it comes to consumer products like Coca-Cola, it's like people have no idea how much stuff Coca-Cola has its hands in. And so they may even be choosing a different Coca-Cola product in order to not buy Coke. Like the level of like hands that these companies have in consumer products is like, but you can see it happen to small businesses where like, when people get canceled, quote unquote canceled, and like Amazon and Target or whatever stop carrying their books, like to an individual who is a small business, if they are like an influencer or something like that, that could be really significant because that unit demand drop influences like their ability to get another book deal or something like that, and maybe their royalties. But the world of Coca-Cola is a hilarious reminder of the breadth of their reach when you're in the fountain room. Ooh, interesting. Is the world of Coca-Cola like like a corporate theme park. Or is that the thing that plays before the movies where you're like on the roller coaster? I feel like that's sponsored by Coca-Cola. I don't know why, but I assume it is. It's just so many sodas. Oh. Oh yeah, like when you're in there, like the actual like fountains. Yeah. So actually, this is a really good illustration, particularly around Coca-Cola. So in the world of like marketing and advertising, if you're old enough to remember this, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, there was a thing called the Coke and Pepsi wars. And they were essentially like, it was a branding exercise where, I don't remember who hit first, but it was essentially Pepsi attacking Coke and like Coke attacking Pepsi. And it was all about like, there were commercials that were like, which one would you choose? Which one is better? And like blind taste tests and like all about like getting consumers to switch from Coke to Pepsi and stuff like that. They even had like a switch campaign and everything. And these wars are held up in marketing as a case study of the fact that both companies' businesses grew. And whether or not consumers changed their preference, these were actually held up as a win-win for both companies because of the amount of press, cultural relevance that you got out of the Cola Wars. It's a tour about their history, and then there's like a big room where you can drink all the sodas at once from all over. Do they have like the different versions of Coca-Cola? Or as we call it in the United States, Mexican Coke, but it's like actually the Coke sold in most parts of the world, just not in the US. Well, I've run out of questions now. Does anybody have any other questions? I should have like prepared a game. I just was so excited to talk about the federal funds rate. Is Jewish Coke Mexican Coke? Isn't all Coke kosher for Passover?
Not American Coke.
Oh, because there's corn in it.
Yeah.
And so then it's...
I don't even remember.
Well, it's kosher for Passover, but not for Ashkenazi, because it's corn. Emily says, I believe they have a Coke Light and a kosher Coke, but it's been a while. It looks like I missed the donut. Hi, Vika. Isn't it like ridiculous o'clock there? Thank you for joining us. This was the donut, just so you can see. It was a pineapple fritter. It was very messy. A lot of coconut has come out off of it. It's coconut pineapple. It wasn't that great. You didn't miss that much. Passover Coke has cane sugar, or not corn syrup. Yeah, so it's like the corn syrup is not, it's not kosher. It doesn't work for Ashkenazi Jews because it's corn. I have questions. I mean, is high fructose corn syrup leavened? It seems like a major company would like have. I have questions. Vika says, sounds like another rabbit hole I'll be researching instead of sleeping tonight. Oh. Vika, can you tell us if Coke is made with high fructose corn syrup or regular cane sugar in Russia? These are the important questions we have. It's 4 a.m. in Russia, and Vika's not sleeping, and I gotta say, this live stream has very 4 a.m. energy. Like, we're not doing anything. I'm just answering random questions. As you can tell from the title, we don't know what we're doing here. What time is it? Have I gone long enough to call this a live stream? I just realized my watch was off. It's been off all day, I bet. Really tells you how much activity I've been doing today. I didn't even notice my watch, which is like a fitness watch, was off. I actually have a bottle of Coke nearby. Sadly, it's empty, but it still has the markings. Okay. Please tell us. It's important. The label says it has sugar. Is Coke a vegetable? This is the real question. But also, just sugar, no high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, okay. So once again, I'm pretty sure everywhere in the world except America has what we call Mexican Coke in the US, which apparently is also Passover Coke. But Vika says that that's vanilla Coke, but I think regular Coke also has sugar. Yeah, I think that's because every other country realizes high fructose corn syrup is terrible. But in America, we're like, nah, it's fine. Latitude says, that's fine. Passover has passed. It's over. You are correct. If you like, I'm gonna recommend that if you like non high fructose corn syrup Coke, go find your local supermarket in a neighborhood that has a high Jewish population, and you can probably find it half price right now because it's the week after Passover, 2 weeks after Passover. You might be able to find it in the back store, half price. I don't like any of this stuff. Like, everybody keeps stating their preferences of soda. I'm just like not a soda fan. So it's I don't really care about any of it. Although I did at one point, my mother really likes Coca-Cola, and she would like not have it in the house, but then she would like get it as a treat when she was out. And at one point when I was little, I told someone that my mother has a Coke habit. Which I meant to be like, she goes and gets a bottle of Coke when she's like out. And it was explained to me that I cannot go around saying that my mother has a Coke habit. She is a like master gardener and used to do like arrange like garden tours and exhibitions, but she had won some sort of prize for all of her potted plants, for like best potted plants or something at these garden shows. And I told someone that my mom has really good pot plants. So I don't know what kind of rumors I was starting with the parents at school, but I have been since informed that I was not allowed to say that my mother has pot plants or a Coke habit. SK, wasn't even there a thing that Coke in Mexico is done with high fructose corn syrup too nowadays, but they make it with sugar to export a Mexican Coke? I remember reading that, but it sounds kind of untrue. But I also know that Mexico has like extremely big problems with soda consumption and like how high soda consumption is. Like, Coke is their national drink. Like, it's like Coca-Cola is their national drink. It has such like heavy market saturation in Mexico. So I don't know. Of course, like, this is a thing I learned from an Economist article. So I recall like 10 of the facts or something, but not the entire story. All right. I don't really know what I'm doing anymore. I guess we've gone long enough. I don't have a watch on. Oh yeah, we've gone long enough. Well, how about everybody tells me what they're most looking forward to this week? Erin just sneezed the cat awake. So while we all just gaze adoringly at the cat on this screen, tell me what you are most looking forward to this week. I got vaccinated last week, and I got the Johnson & Johnson, so it's the end. So I'm just like in vaccine purgatory right now, which is that like, I know that I have it and that I soon will be able to do exciting things. But which is like, exciting things involve going to an ice skating rink in an N95 and getting to skate and getting a haircut. So I'm living a riveting life, truly. But I'm also concerned because we actually just yesterday like moved back into the like next highest status. We're not quite having like another wave here yet, but like they did move us back up to like the next alert status, but not the highest. So I feel like with my luck, the rinks are going to have to shut down again for the third time in the past year and a half. At like right as I'm 3 weeks post-vaccine. So, ooh, Christy's getting vaccinated on Monday. Yay, I'm so excited for you. Latitude is not excited about exams, but excited that they will be over when they are done, which is very exciting. Emily is going to make hamburgers tonight, which I always forget I can just make. I can just buy the ingredients. I'm so excited for that. I didn't really realize that one can make hamburgers, but this really speaks to my lack of knowledge about how to prepare meat in any way. I just know that I'm terrified of it because as a certified food handler, I have been tested on the temperatures many times, and I remember them for the food handler's certificate exam, and then I promptly forget them. So I'm just terrified by meat, and I know nothing about producing it. Denise says, I don't think I can top that sneeze Dora waking on camera this week. Oh man, that might be like a very low. I hope that something this week brings you at least as much joy as Dora being woken up by a sneeze. I will say that like part of the reason I didn't get anything done today was that I was trapped on the couch underneath this cat who was so cute. I mean, she aimed for an entire Saturday on the couch. She's Catterdaying it hard, but she was so cute that it was requiring pointing out to the other person how cute she was like about every 10 minutes for like 9 hours. Be like, oh, look, she just sighed. Oh, look, she got even cuter and put her paws over her face. So Be Queer Make Stuff says, looking forward to earnestly sleeping and writing fan fiction. Looking forward to less earnestly, but with the deeper parts of me, doing some very scary sewing and applying for jobs. I mean, both of those are exciting. I guess both categories of those things are exciting. I'm excited for you writing fan fiction. I'm rereading a novel-length fan fiction that I've read a bunch of times that is not finished, but like, I wouldn't say that they say they've abandoned it, but they last posted a chapter October 2019, which is quickly becoming maybe they are not coming back to this fan fiction. And it's very good by itself. However, it's like not resolved. And I was just thinking earlier, like, maybe I should DM them and ask if I can write a fan fiction for their fan fiction that like ties up the plot parts, like right in the universe of their fan fiction, despite their fan fiction being an AU of the original fan fiction, like fandom. So I don't know. I would like to see it resolved, but I'm not nearly as good of a writer as them. So Ross Commandor is trying to slow down Twitter in my country. I'm keeping my VPN permanently active. Hey, at least you haven't been banned from VPNs like your country down there to the south. So I am sorry that government censorship is really terrible. I hope that your VPN continues to be available and also affordable. I know it can get very expensive outside the US to keep up a VPN. Anyone else looking forward to anything? I don't know. Thank you for attending whatever this was today. And I look forward to everybody's vaccines, hamburgers, exams being done, applying to jobs, sewing hard stuff, writing fan fiction, possibly seeing cats being woken up by sneezes, any of these things this week. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And you all stay safe. And I will see you same time, same place next week. I may even actually have a topic next week. All right. Bye.